We think the rules are very clear.
Giving it everything that they have.
It's going to be a big change, but
We are trying to push ahead,
it's still a racing car.
trying to maximize everything.
We trust that the FIA
It's the best thing to do.
level of playfield.
Detroit, Ford's birthplace, the city where American automotive dreams were born. And now, the stage for Formula One's most dangerous gamble. Red Bull just unveiled the RB22. Their first homemade engine. Their first season without Christian Horner leading the charge. Their first real test of whether this empire can survive without the people who built it. The livery? Stunning. Glossy. A throwback to glory days. But the car underneath? That's where the Renault story begins. Because this isn't just a launch event. This is Red Bull betting everything. Their future, their champion, their legacy, on one question. Can they build a power unit good enough to keep Max Verstappen from walking away? And more importantly, do they even know the answer yet? Let's rewind to what got us here. For nearly 2 decades, Red Bull racing has been defined by 2 things: Adrian Newey's genius and other people's engines. Renault, Honda, they've always been customers, always dependent. But 2026 changes everything. New regulations, radical power unit rules, and for the first time ever, Red Bull built their own engine. With Ford's technical support, they named it the DM01, after Dietrich Mateschitz, the man who believed Red Bull could conquer Formula One when no one else did. Sounds inspiring, right? But here's the problem. Building a competitive Formula One power unit from scratch isn't romantic. It's brutal. It's unforgiving. And history is littered with teams who thought they could do it and failed. Honda's return in 2015? A disaster. Renault's factory effort? Struggled for years. Even Mercedes, the benchmark, took half a decade to perfect their hybrid era dominance. And Red Bull? They've got one winter, one preseason test, one chance to get this right before Max Verstappen decides if his future is still painted blue and yellow. Because let's not forget, Max has an exit clause. If Red Bull finishes outside the top 2 by the summer break, he's free to walk. That's not a safety net. That's a ticking clock. Now here's where it gets interesting. 12 months ago, the paddock was convinced Red Bull would arrive in Australia as backmarkers. Dead last. Humiliated. But then, something shifted. According to F1 journalist John Noble, Red Bull's internal messaging has completely changed. They're not panicking anymore. They're not talking about damage control. They're talking about being competitive. Cautiously optimistic, yes, but competitive nonetheless. And here's the kicker. While Mercedes are still expected to lead the field under these new regulations, Red Bull no longer see themselves as outsiders. They believe they'll be close. Maybe closer than anyone thinks. But why? What changed? Because on paper, this should be a disaster. Helmut Marko's gone. Christian Horner's out. Rob Marshall, Jonathan Wheatley, all the senior leadership that defined Red Bull's culture, scattered to the wind. And yet, Max Verstappen stayed. Not because he's loyal, not because he's sentimental, but because he knows something we don't. Let's talk about what Red Bull isn't saying publicly. There are whispers, strong rumors, that Red Bull and Mercedes may have independently discovered the same loophole in the 2026 engine regulations. Specifically, compression ratios. Now, if you're not an engineer, that sounds boring. But in Formula One, boring technical details win championships. Because in an era where battery efficiency, energy harvesting, and fuel chemistry all matter just as much as raw power, 1 or 2 tenths of a second per lap could decide everything. And Red Bull, they've been aggressively recruiting engineers from Honda, engineers from Mercedes, blending philosophies, building something new in Milton Keynes. This isn't just Ford slapping their badge on a Red Bull chassis. This is a legitimate technical partnership, a ground-up power unit program. And at the Detroit launch, team principal Laurent Mekies didn't sugarcoat it. He told supporters to bear with them in the first few months, that eventually they'll get on top of it. That's not PR spin. That's honesty. Because Red Bull knows Ferrari is struggling with their new engine concept. They know Honda has battery concerns. They know Audi has already downplayed expectations for their first season. And that means one thing. The 2026 grid might not be decided by who's fastest out of the gate. It'll be decided by who adapts fastest once the racing starts. But here's the brutal truth Red Bull can't escape. Max Verstappen just lost the 2025 championship to Lando Norris by 2 points. 2 points. and it wasn't his fault. It was the car's lack of competitiveness before the summer break that cost them the title. Now, Max chose to stay, but that decision wasn't permanent. If the RB22 isn't competitive in 2026, those conversations with Mercedes and Aston Martin will come roaring back. Former world champion Damon Hill made a key observation. If Red Bull were truly lost heading into these new regulations, Verstappen would already be voicing frustration. Instead, he finished 2025 praising the team, lifting morale, speaking with pride about their fight back. That doesn't sound like a driver preparing an exit. That sounds like someone who believes in what's coming. But belief doesn't win races. Performance does. And the truth is, Red Bull won't know if this gamble paid off until Barcelona, until preseason testing, until the RB22 hits the track and the stopwatch tells them everything. Because right now, all we've seen is a show car. A Memento Exclusives chassis painted in a gorgeous retro livery. The real RB22 is still being built, still being refined, still a complete mystery. And that uncertainty? It's exactly what makes this launch so significant. Because Red Bull just told the world, we're ready to fight. But the question remains, are they ready to win? So here's how this could play out. Scenario 1. The DM01 works. Red Bull are competitive from race 1. Max Verstappen stays for the long haul, and this partnership with Ford becomes the foundation of a new dynasty. Scenario 2. The power unit struggles early, but Red Bull adapt fast. By mid-season, they're in the fight. Max stays patient. The championship battle intensifies, and 2027 becomes their real shot at redemption. Scenario 3. The engine isn't good enough. Red Bull falls outside the top 2 by summer. Max triggers his exit clause, and the entire F1 driver market explodes as Mercedes, Aston Martin, and Ferrari all make their move for the greatest driver of his generation. One of these will happen. We just don't know which one yet. But here's what we do know. Red Bull just launched a car that represents the biggest risk they've ever taken. No Newey, no Horner, no safety net, just a homemade engine, a 4-time world champion entering his 11th season, and a rookie named Isaac Hadjar who's about to find out what it's really like to be Max Verstappen's teammate. So here's what I want to know. Did Red Bull just quietly rebuild their strength in time for the biggest regulation change in modern F1 history? Or are we about to witness the beginning of the Max Verstappen transfer saga all over again? And maybe the biggest question of all, when the RB22 finally hits the track in Barcelona, will it prove Red Bull's confidence was justified? Or will it expose the one thing they can't afford to admit, that they needed the people they lost more than they ever wanted to believe? If you made it this far, you already know, this season's not about who's fastest out of the gate. It's about who survives the pressure when everything's on the line. So tell me, is Red Bull's 2026 gamble genius or desperation?